Are we going? We're going. Right, hello. This is a Gamasutra video interview, and today I'm talking to John Ribbins from
Hi.
Roll7, who's up in the corner there. You can't see my face because I've got some kind of crazy setup where my webcam is recording my Vita, because John is here to talk about his Vita game, OlliOlli, which I'm a bit excited about.
I'm almost as excited about the camera rig that you've actually built.
This is if people watching knew the lengths I have gone to set this up, and it still doesn't look great. I must point out that the game does look beautiful in this feed. Obviously, it doesn't because my webcam's a bit crap. But anyway, let's skirt over that and let's talk about Roll7. So I'm gonna sit and play this game and try not to look too rubbish. And
Okay.
what you should do is tell me who Roll7 is and what you guys have been up to.
Okay, so Roll7 is a sort of small indie studio in southeast London. And we kind of started in 2008. We did a bunch of kind of gun for hire stuff, doing games for other people. And then in 2012, we did our first game that was ours. It was called Gets to the Exit, which was a kind of puzzle platform game for iOS, which I think is actually where I first met you. I think I showed it to you. It developed back in 2012. Yeah, and actually it was while I was there that I then met James Marsden from FutureLab, who was doing Velocity at the time, and he kind of played a prototype of OlliOlli that you're playing now, which back then was like a much more punishing touch control iOS game.
Yeah.
And he kind of said, you should show this to the guys at Sony. So it was a really bizarre one. I mean, he literally sent an email to Shahid saying, Roll7, Shahid, fight. And so we went in and met them and showed them the game, and they were really into it, and they kind of gave us a shot. Said, do you want to bring it to Vita instead of iOS? And kind of as soon as we started thinking about the fact that we had physical controls on the Vita, and what that meant we could kind of do with tricks and stuff like that, it totally made sense.
Yeah. So how many Roll7ers are there in your posse?
Oh gosh, I've got to count now. I think at the moment there's actually 7, but that's not anything to do with why we're called Roll7.
Yeah. It's like Electric Six. They had like 5 members for quite a while. So
yeah, that was a branding fail, to be honest.
So OlliOlli then. Explain what I am playing here.
Okay, so OlliOlli, I guess, it's kind of like an old school skateboarding game because it's in 2D, so you're only ever moving from the left to the right, and I guess it's kind of maybe 50% puzzle platformer, and then 50% like a combo attack thing. Like you're trying to get the biggest score possible with the best moves in each level. But yeah, there's kind of like a puzzle element to the levels as well. Like you need to work out the best route, and you kind of need to work out, where you're going to grind and where you're going to trick in order that you don't slam at the same time. So I guess that kind of forms the basis for a whole bunch of different modes. So obviously, like there's a career mode, which I think is what you're zooming through now. You've done pretty well. You've unlocked a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I've not finished it. I'm struggling towards the end. So these last 2 worlds here, I've oh, hang on. I've so for people watching, you need to complete. You get challenges in each of the amateur levels. So for example, this one wants me to. I still need to grab a uranium rod and finish, and I have to only push once, which is where you press X to get a bit more speed. And if you do that, then you get the pro levels, which are a little bit harder. And if you can, I think this is right, if you can get all of the challenges completed in all the pro levels, then you get rad mode, which sounds ridiculous, but I haven't had to deal with that yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
So basically, like when we first made the game on the iOS version, and actually right up until first playable of OlliOlli on the Vita, the game kind of works. So there's this mechanic where, like, as well as doing tricks with the left analog stick, you've also got to hit X. Every time you're about to touch the floor, you have to hit X to like land your trick, as you just didn't there.
Exactly.
Like, so if you mess up the timing, you get a sloppy landing, and if you get it exactly right, you get a perfect. Like a perfect landing gives you a much bigger score and a little speed boost. Sloppy landing slows you down. You can't pull a trick while you're kind of flailing around. and is like a really, really punishing nerf on your score, basically. And in the original mode, in the original game, there were no sloppy landings. Like if you messed up the timing, you just slammed, and that was the end of your run. But we kind of realized that was actually maybe a bit inaccessible when you start the game. But there is something really satisfying to it. So hence why like rad mode is in there, because we kind of thought, if you've beaten the whole game and you've got all the way through and done all the challenges, and then you kind of want to play it how we were originally intending it to be played before we realized it was actually probably a bit harsh.
Yeah.
You can try rad mode, and rad mode is literally you have to 100% perfect the game.
So like the funny thing, I was like, when I was thinking about sort of what skateboarding games have done before, obviously there's Tony Hawk's, and I was thinking like in a way this game is sort of like the opposite of Tony Hawk's, in that in Tony Hawk's you'd start grinding, or you'd start doing a lip or whatever, or you'd start spinning, and that was the bit where you were in control and you had to make sure you finished that grind or that spin perfectly. And then the landing, it just landed, it did it for you. Whereas like in your game, so you have to set up the grind or the flip or whatever, but once that happens, it's like more of an animation, and then you have to make sure it finishes. If you see what I mean. So, yeah.
So I guess like there's you're kind of missing a Z axis, right? So like in Tony Hawk's, it's in 3D. So there's like the added complexity, as you said, of like lining up your grind to start with, and then obviously like balancing on that grind while you're doing it. So I think you're like actually with the game being 2D, with not having that depth element to what you have to think about. If you didn't have to land your trick at the end by pressing X, that was a massive slam.
Yeah, it was.
If you didn't have to land your trick by pressing X, then it's actually way too easy. Like you just cruise through the whole game with no problems. So it seemed like a really nice thing to be like, well, you haven't got all of this stuff to think about, but now you also have to think about this this new thing that might totally screw you up. And I kind of like it because like you get these, all of the levels are kind of built that you can do these ridiculous combos, but there's this nice like element of risk in that, like no matter how big you go, if you don't land it, like it's not worth anything.
Yeah. So why is it a Vita exclusive game? Because, obviously, I'm guessing you could have, made it cross-platform with PS3. Why have you gone Vita exclusively?
I guess partly it's a suggestion of from Sony's part. We're not being published by Sony, but they are funding it. And I think from our point of view, actually, in terms of sort of it's a weird angle for, I guess, to be talking from, but like, so in terms of like a marketing and a PR side to it, there's something actually quite nice about being an exclusive. This is the first, we've done iOS games before, and like we've done PC stuff before, but this is the first console title we've worked on. And so it's quite nice to be like, we're kind of dedicated to this platform, and it's been an awesome platform to work on. Like as a mobile device, it's a really great little thing to play games on. So I think from that side, and also we didn't use any middleware to build the game. Perhaps stupidly, we built everything from scratch in C++ using Sony's SDK. So in terms of being an exclusive, like it wasn't actually built for any other platform. It's been built specifically for Vita.
Yeah, so I was going to ask about this. So like the game's made in Multimedia Fusion, right?
No, the original prototype was built in Multimedia.
The prototype was, yeah. Because I remember I was talking to Tom, one of your Roll7 guys.
Yes.
And back at Develop, and he was talking about how the prototype was made in. Actually, the way it was worded was that I was he was asking me if I ever made games before, and I said, oh yeah, I used to make sort of crappy games in one of these old crappy engines like Multimedia Fusion. And he's like, oh, that's what our game was made in.
That's everyone who uses it says it with that like slight degree of shame as well.
Yeah,
like, I kind of once did something in Multimedia Fusion.
Well, I think it feels a bit like it's not to put anybody down who uses it probably. I think the Iconoclast is made in it possibly.
Yeah. I think Really Big Sky was done in it as well. Like, there's been wicked titles made with it.
I think it's more like I feel embarrassed that like people are able to do these amazing things with it. And I look back at some of the stuff I made with it, and I'm like, how did they do that? It's just embarrassing the things that.
That's like that's like those things with middleware like that, right? Where you kind of look at it and you go, oh, this is the kind of limitation, and then you see people that have pushed it, and you're like, oh wow, okay, I really didn't even think that was
exactly.
possible.
Yeah. So one other thing which I was going to show people, which hopefully they'll be able to see, is this button up here, which is the daily grind. So do you want to?
I was going to ask if you've done this yet.
No, I purposely didn't do it so I could do it for this video, which was possibly the worst idea I could have because this would be really embarrassing. Yeah, if you want to explain what this is.
Sure. Okay. So I guess like so far I haven't been paying a huge degree of attention to what's on screen. You've been playing career mode, yeah?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Okay, so like as you play through career mode, every time you finish a level, not the challenges, but just get to the end, you unlock a spot. And a spot is kind of like it's a level that can be completed in one really big combo. But if you don't reach the end of the level and you land, then that's the end of your combo and you don't get to keep riding. So it's kind of like a one combo thing. So what we did with Daily Grind was every day it picks a random one of those spots and everyone gets that spot. And you can practice the spot as many times as you want, so you can kind of learn it, see how it works, see what your kind of best options are across it, like definitely grinding that helicopter stops you getting killed. So you can kind of practice it as much as you want and try and like really nail a line and get your combo down. But then kind of like once you go for it, once you try and make it, you get one chance to do it for real. And if you slam or you mess it up, then like that's it. You can't play that level anymore that day. So there's kind of that element. Like I know a couple of people that never practice. They just go in because they're like, the worst thing is doing a practice run that's like 1.8 million those and then just doing a kickflip.
You have to do a practice. Although, yeah, I know what they mean though, because I practice over and over and over again. Then when I come to do it, I fail so hard. Yeah, I mean, for people watching, it's like doing the daily grind. Oh, I can't make that jump there. Doing the daily grind
a little bit later.
I know, yeah. Doing the daily grind, it's like this sort of 20 seconds of just the most awful tension. I mean, it's like if people have played the Spelunky Daily Challenge.
Sure.
It's like that, except like way more tense, because at least in the Spelunky Daily Challenge, you can sort of take your time, you can take it slow, you can, well, not too slow in case the ghost comes, but you can at least like look around, like weigh up your options. Yourself. Yeah, exactly. In this, it's like just go, go, go. Oh my god, there's constant things coming at me, and it's yeah. It's how did you sort of come up with the idea in the first place?
We'd originally so I guess like there's been quite a change through development. We'd originally wanted to do OlliOlli as like an infinite runner,
yeah,
where you skateboard. And actually, the first prototype we built was infinite. Actually, that's not entirely true because we did it in Multimedia Fusion. It kept running out of memory, so it kind of crashed after like 90,000 meters or something like that. But it was basically an infinite runner. And so like we started building the game like to be this infinite runner thing that you'd kind of go through and you'd unlock these different areas that you're skating. And like the more we were building it, the more we kind of, because the prototype was really quite simple. You only ever kind of got like a ledge and then a rail and then an obstacle. There was nothing huge.
Yeah.
But like once we started putting this version together and kind of throwing together sections that had maybe like 18, 19 obstacles that you were doing tricks down, it sort of became really apparent that being random was actually quite frustrating because you couldn't learn a level. Like every time it was just different. So you couldn't have kind of the level of complexity of the combo stuff that you've got in the game now with it being random because it was just unfair on the player.
Yeah.
And so then we kind of started being like, right, well, let's handcraft levels and it can kind of have a slightly more puzzly element to it. And I think once we started doing that, it just became a thing that you'd be sitting in the studio with a test kit each being like, all right, we're going to just practice this one bit, you know, and then you get one chance and let's see who can get the best score. And it was like, hold on a minute, that's actually like a really cool mode for the game. We should totally do that. But yeah, at the time, like we got really concerned about it because we were like, a daily challenge would be really fun. And then Spelunky came out on Vita and they didn't have the daily challenge on the first release.
Yeah.
And we were a bit like, oh, okay, why didn't they do it? It must be really hard. And it was.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, was it what was it? Because the game was meant to come out end of last year, right? And then you had to sort of delay it a couple of months.
Yeah, well, we did, you know, as I said, like this was our first title for a console, and I guess it sort of, that's a different world from submitting a game to Apple to sort of submitting it to Sony QA.
Yeah.
There's a lot of diligence there, and like, as a studio, it's been really good. I think it's helped us kind of grow, and it's like we learned a heck of a lot from that, and like having to think about stuff I don't think we ever would have thought of if we were just self-publishing something onto PC. But yeah, obviously all the network stuff was totally new to us. Because obviously this isn't using our own server, we're kind of tying into PlayStation Network and things like that.
Yeah.
And the daily grind is kind of because you've got this high score that's updating every day, but it's not for the same level and stuff like that. That was maybe a bit more complex than we originally figured it was going to be to actually get working.
Yeah. Well, I haven't managed to actually complete this daily grind once yet, so I don't think
this level, or no, you've set scores before.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah. You're near the end.
Done it! Oh,
Look at that.
I didn't actually get a perfect though. Right. Let's play it for real. And so
just as a point, right, before you dash off, and
yeah.
I don't want to ruin your concentration. So like your sick landing there, that would have probably been 1.5, 1.6 million had you got that a little bit more perfect. So it's quite the jump between.
Yeah, that's the thing. The way, like, if you land a sloppy and it gives you like 2,000 points. And that's it. Like, are you being serious?
All right, I'm gonna stay super quiet and let you concentrate.
Right, let's do this. God, it's gonna be embarrassing now if I just bugger this up straight away. Okay, here we go. Okay. Oh, what was that?
That was like the third obstacle.
Yeah, that wasn't great. That wasn't great at all, was it? No. What was the score somebody managed to get? Hang on. Oh, it's not telling me. Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you about actually was, which I found kind of great, really, is the soundtrack. So, how did you bring the soundtrack together? Because you've basically talked to a whole bunch of different artists, right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, sorry, my cat's shouting at me. Doing stuff. Go away. So. Like, it's kind of funny, like originally we went and spoke to lots of kind of like rock stuff and kind of like quite heavy skate punk stuff and things like that, because it's skateboarding and that's kind of maybe the music you're supposed to put.
Yeah.
But then like when people started coming in and testing it, they were like, I'm playing this game that has the potential to be quite frustrating and I'm listening to this quite angry music while I'm playing, and like overall it's just kind of stressing me out and making me angry. And I think what we realised was like we were thinking of putting this kind of like rock punk music on the game, but all the time that we were making it and playing it and working on it in the office, we're listening to the kind of stuff that's in there now. And so I kind of think we thought like, well, if this is the kind of stuff that we're listening to and enjoying while we're playing it, maybe like this is the route to go with the soundtrack. And so Simon at the studio, who's another one of the directors, he dealt with all of the kind of music licensing and talking to all of the artists and trying to get them on board. So a few of them were like people we knew or had connections with, and then some of them were people we just kind of hit up and went, hey, we're kind of making an old school skateboarding game. Are you interested in being on the soundtrack? And like for the most part, people were really positive. They're like, a skating game, yeah, wicked. Like I used to skateboard, whatever. Like, I'd love to have a track in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, because it complements the game. Like you say, it's like if there were sort of loud, angry songs, then I probably wouldn't have a PlayStation Vita anymore. Probably 4 pieces. Yeah.
Oh, dude, this level's super hard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm already struggling with it. I only just started.
This one's got like, so there's a couple of bits at least in the game that kind of challenge you not to do the thing you expect.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you found it, so like I think like there's kind of like a flow and a rhythm to most of the levels in terms of like trick, grind, trick, grind, land. But then what we found like later on to kind of add to that difficulty is to then almost like break that flow, so you get an obstacle that comes slightly too soon or slightly too late, so you're kind of pulling down and trying to grind because you've got into this rhythm and it's not the right place anymore and you've got to adjust it, which I think is the edge that you've died on about 15 times.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Yeah, like I found that that when I'm playing it, I sometimes need to just step away for an hour. Like I'll be playing it, I'll do a level over and over again, and I'll get so like angry at it. I'll be like, "You're being serious," and I just won't be able to do one little bit. And I'll step away, and when I come back like an hour later, I can do it just straight off. It's sort of crazy how that happens.
I'm sorry I've done that to you, Mike.
You should be, really. Yeah. Well, I'm never gonna make that jump there, so Just watch him fall for a while.
Yeah.
I spared him those stairs. Right, well, I should stop embarrassing myself now. Game is out on, 21st of Jan in...
21st of Jan in the US and
Yeah.
22nd in the EU.
Excellent. And what's future plans with it? Are you going to build on top of it? Is there going to be DLC, or are you going to move on to a new game, or what?
We're working on another title at the moment.
Yeah.
That will kind of be announced soon. And there is definitely more OlliOlli in the future.
Excellent.
But I'm going to keep it mysterious for now.
That sounds like a promise to me.
Well, we didn't have manuals in this version, and like more than anything else, it needs manuals.
Oh, that's dangerous though, because if you add manuals, then people will call for you to then go back to the original game and add manuals to the original game, just like they did with Tony Hawk's.
Yeah, and then we'll have to do an HD re-release and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, true. Right, well, yeah, thanks very much for talking to me. And,
awesome, thank you for having me.
No problems. If anybody wants to pick up this game, which you really should, it's like we say, it's out on 21st, 22nd of Jan, and it's super good.
Oh, thank you very much. We are gonna. This is maybe not the best time, but we are going to run a competition on the Daily Grind at some point after release to maybe win some stuff. So get practicing.
So yeah, if people want to win that, they should probably not play like I just did. That would be a bad idea, basically.
Yes, play like you did on the run just before you
Exactly.
dropped.
Exactly. Play like I did on the practice run. And,
yes.
And you'll be fine. Yeah. Okay. Right. Cheers for talking to me.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Mike. Speak to you soon.